It doesn't look like we have enough votes to pass one of management's proposals on the ballot for an annual shareholders meeting. Can we adjourn the meeting to solicit more votes? Today on Zippy Point. I'm Brock Romanek, and I'm a big fan of yous. So it's going to depend on the laws of the state in which your company is incorporated, and if your charter and bylaws allow for it, and you foresaw the possibility of an adjournment and baked that possibility into your proxy disclosure, into your proxy card, it may then be possible. So let's first consider the state law. Let's start with the state law analysis. So let's say your company is incorporated in Delaware, as many public companies are. And under Delaware law, if a Delaware court determines that a meeting was delayed as a defensive tactic or to interfere with the shareholder's right to vote, the court will place the burden on the company seeking the delay to demonstrate that the delay was appropriate, regardless of the authority granted under the company's bylaws. In most cases, adjournment to simply solicit more votes should pass muster here. If problems arise, it's typically because a merger is involved or a proxy fight. But if your facts are less contentious, it shouldn't be a Delaware law problem. You're going to have to be mindful about how long the adjournment lasts. Be aware that under Section 222C of the Delaware General Corporation Law, if notice of the date to which the meeting is adjourned is provided at the meeting, and if the adjournment is less than 30 days, no notice about the adjournment to shareholders is required. And you do not want a new record date if you can avoid it. You do not want a new record date. Section 213A of the DGCL provides that unless the directors fix a new record date, the record date for the adjourned meeting will remain unchanged. If the record date doesn't change, proxies that were solicited for the meeting, the original meeting, may continue to be voted when the meeting reconvenes. This is huge. You do not want to have to start from scratch. You do not want to have to start over. You want to be able to use the proxies that you've already received, that you've already solicited. So unless the board has elected to establish a new record date, you don't have to go through those hoops. So let's talk about the federal securities laws, the SEC. So normally you're going to know going in whether you have a proposal on the ballot that may be a little bit controversial, may be contested, or maybe if it's even not contested, you may have trouble bringing in votes due to shareholder apathy. There's just a lack of interest by your shareholder base to vote. They might not vote on a regular basis. Year after year, you're having trouble reaching quorum. So as noted by Carl Hagberg in the comprehensive Vid-Guide that we taped together about proxy cards, a link to which is beneath this video, you want to include a box on your proxy card asking shareholders to give you the authority to adjourn the meeting if you think you have one of these situations. And then you need to back up that box on the proxy card in your proxy disclosure, in your proxy statement, explaining what you're doing, that you might need to adjourn the meeting to solicit additional votes. The SEC requires that companies give shareholders the ability to specifically vote on any adjournment proposal on the proxy card. Rule 14A4 grants a company the ability to solicit proxy, conferring discretionary authority to management to vote on matters incident to the conduct of the meeting. That's standard phrasing on all proxy cards. But the SEC does not consider adjourning a meeting to be incident to the conduct. That's just not part of the proxy holder's discretionary authority. So if you don't have a proposal on the ballot to allow for adjournment, it's not listed on your proxy card, it's not described in your proxy statement, you're out of luck. So here's an example of having an adjournment proposal on the ballot. It's almost always the last proposal that's listed. Here's an example of what that looks like on a proxy card. The adjournment option is common for a special meeting proxy, so it'll be on your special meeting proxy card, since the issue to be voted upon at a special meeting typically is at least a little bit controversial. That's why there's a special meeting being called. So see this example. So for the pandemic, the SEC staff issued guidance relaxing its rules to enable companies to move their in-person meetings to a virtual format more easily. So that's why you saw a bunch of adjournments during 2020 without these adjournments having to originally being disclosed in the proxy. They weren't originally on the proxy card, but yet they were still allowed by the SEC staff. So 3, let's talk about bylaws and sometimes charter provisions, but typically in your bylaw that the authority to adjourn resides. So maybe the bylaw provision gives the right to adjourn to the board. It might be more typically a majority of the shares present at the meeting, even if it's less than a quorum. So then the proxy holders to which are ran get to make the decision. Those are usually members of management. Sometimes you need to solicit additional votes just to reach quorum. This happens. It's just part of an apathetic shareholder base. So here's an example of a bylaw. This is in Alphabet's bylaws. It's a Delaware company. And even if a company isn't obligated to give shareholders notice about an adjourned meeting, it is going to be soliciting votes. That's why it adjourned the meeting in the first place, at least for the purposes of this Vid-Guide. So the company will be filing supplements, proxy supplements, additional soliciting material to help bring the vote in. So here's one example of a proxy supplement for a partial adjournment. The company only adjourned the part of the meeting relating to that one proposal that still needs some soliciting in order to get the matter to pass. And here's another example that we didn't get enough votes on proposal number 2. We apologize for the repeated follow-up, but please vote. And here's an example where not enough votes were cast to make the merger official yet. To get the votes cast so far have overwhelmingly been in favor of the deal, but we just haven't quite collected enough votes to make it official. Of course, there could be adjournments not relating to soliciting more votes for a particular proposal. Here's an example of an adjournment due to a change in management. And then here's an example of an adjourned meeting to go from an in-person meeting to a virtual format due to COVID. A press release was included. All the boxes were checked in the SEC staff's guidance due to the special circumstances of the pandemic. So see my separate Vid-Guide about why you might want to adjourn an annual meeting rather than postpone it, a link to which is beneath this video. And let me know what you think in general.